That's too bright. There we go. That's solid. That's a cute look.
Yeah, I got just that perfect.
Yeah, the perfect shine. You know?
That's what it's all about.
Yeah. Or I guess I could like turn my light on in my room. That would probably be smart too. Never mind, that doesn't do anything. So we're just gonna roll with it.
It was worth a shot.
Light in my face. You know, it's all right. I could do like just like a shadow puppet show on my face. Be kind of fun. Just vibing. But
all right, Luke, you want to start us up?
Yeah, I can get us started. I will get started then. Hello all. If you are watching this live or you are watching this in the future, welcome to our live stream / recording for the Interfraternity Council. Today we're going to talk a little bit about the Interfraternity Council at Iowa State, as well as how you can get involved in the council and potentially go over some of the opportunities that are available within our council as well. But we'll start by introducing ourselves. My name is Luke Safras. I am one of the 2 vice presidents of recruitment for the Interfraternity Council, which means that I am responsible for all things membership intake, bringing new people into our community. I am originally from Johnston, Iowa, which is in the Des Moines area. I am a senior in industrial engineering, and a fun fact about me is that my family has a 3-legged cat named Tripod, who likes to sleep in this room, but she's not in here right now, unfortunately. So.
Every time, I love it. Hey, y'all. My name is Gunnar Maddock. I am the other vice president of recruitment for the Interfraternity Council. I am originally from Glen Ellen, Illinois, and I am going to be a 5th year this upcoming year, and I am double majoring in psychology and biology. And a fun fact about me is that I transferred from Colorado State University.
Fun stuff. Yeehaw. All right. So we're going to kind of, like I said, just go through the Interfraternity Council a little bit, talk about our recruitment process, what the joining process looks like. Then towards the end, we'll kind of share some of our experiences, talk a little bit more about some of those experiences that you get through being a member of our community and of our council. So the Interfraternity Council covers 30 different fraternities on Iowa State's campus. 28 of these fraternities have chapter facilities on our campus. The other 2 exist in social groups around campus, apartments, residence halls, etc. Those 2 that don't have chapter facilities function and behave pretty much equally in all ways to our chapters that do have facilities. They just use common spaces for them. So they'll rent out spaces in the Memorial Union or around campus in order to host their events. But other than that, they are still functional as much as our other chapters are. They have chapter meetings. All of our chapters have chapter meetings. They will eat dinner together, things like that. So our council overall has generally the goal of just building our members into better men and better citizens of the world. We have lots of different values across our community, as well as our 5 community values. And all of those areas are really important to us in growing all of our participants. Like I said, every chapter has their own set of values where they focus on growing their members. But they all are ultimately working towards that same goal of building our members into better global citizens once they leave college, once they leave Iowa State after their 4 or 5 years. With that, Gunnar's going to talk a little bit about our kick us off, starting to talk about how you get involved in our community.
Yeah. So before we jump into our 2 main methods of recruitment, I'm going to go and generally talk about the bidding process. So what this looks like is usually a potential new member or a P&M. So if you're interested in joining a council, you're labeled as a P&M. So basically what this looks like is a chapter recruitment chair and or chapter representative will meet with a P&M a few times, whether it's through house tours, over dinner, etc. And if they feel comfortable enough and think you'd be a good addition to their brotherhood, they'll go and extend you a bid. That being said, receiving a bid is typically a pretty large compliment. And there are two main kinds of bids. So the first one is the blue community bid card. And what this means is basically it's the bid card that the office officially uses to go and have a count for all fraternities. What this looks like is if you sign this, you're saying you want to directly affiliate and you're choosing that fraternity to join. And then the other bid card is the chapter specific bid card. So what this looks like is it's more of a formality than anything else. It usually includes the chapter's crest and then signatures from chapter leaders saying that they think you'd be a great member for their fraternity. Once again, more of a formality and just something to hold on to. And this also varies a lot from chapter to chapter. Not every chapter does that, but every chapter does use the blue community bid card. And with that blue community bid card as well, there is just general information that you'd be putting on the bid card. And then also you'd be agreeing to a media release, which basically means we can use your image on any of our social media platforms, a non-hazing policy because we hold a zero tolerance hazing policy, and then also an academic release. So both your individual chapter and the community, the whole community and council can go and access your academics.
And you can kind of think of that receiving that bid as the end of your recruitment journey within a particular chapter. You can receive multiple bids from multiple chapters and kind of weigh your options with those. But that is kind of how you signify that, yes, you can join the chapter that you're interested in. So now we're going to talk a little bit, how do you get those bids themselves? So within our community, within our council, there are two paths to recruitment and paths to getting that bid card. The first is the informal process, which we will talk about a little bit. There's two paths, informal and formal. The informal process is kind of a more generalized process, which Gunnar will talk about in a second. And then the more formal process revolves mainly around two events that occur throughout the school year that we sort of help as a council kind of put on to help promote recruitment within our council. And we will both talk about those eventually. But Gunnar's going to start us off with the informal process.
Yeah. So the informal process, usually at most major universities for the interfraternity recruitment, usually the formal process is the larger process, but it's actually switched at Iowa State. The majority of people join during the informal process. This is also called 365 recruitment. So the two major methods of informal are individual chapter outreach and summer recruitment. So the way you get involved with informal is usually you note interest. You'll go and email us directly at our email, or you'll go and contact fraternities directly, and or you'll get a call from Iowa State, an Iowa State representative, and you'll note interest, whether it's a call, form, anything like that. And from there, you'll be put on a list, and your contact information and your noted interest will be given to all of the fraternity recruitment chairs and representatives, and they'll have the opportunity to reach out to you. So that's how summer recruitment occurs. Usually it's just random calls, cold calls, or cold texts. And if you have interest, you can respond to them, and then they'll set up meetings from there. And a lot of that is individual meals, recruitment events, and house tours. And then with individual chapter outreach, it's essentially the same thing, but it typically occurs through the semester. So a lot of this can look like an individual chapter going and tabling at Club Fest, them doing independent tabling outside of structured Iowa State events, and then also going and doing individual chapter recruitment events throughout the semester. So whether it's a barbecue, a pickup game of volleyball or softball, anything like that.
So the informal process can seem kind of intimidating to some people. The concept of, kind of just like Gunnar said, cold calling, cold texting. I certainly was not a fan of that when I was going through my recruitment process. So I opted for the more formal process, which is why the formal process exists, is so that people of all comfort levels can kind of get that connection. If they want to facilitate it themselves, they can do that, or they can use our methods to get assistance in facilitating that contact. So the first of those 2 formal recruitment events that I mentioned is our fall formal recruitment event. This is an event that occurs this year. It will be occurring right at the beginning of the school year. And it is a week-long event that gives you the opportunity to meet and interact with all 30 of our chapters in the Interfraternity Council. The goal of this event is to kind of help you quickly but effectively figure out where you want to go and get signed with that chapter within that week. So it's a very quick and efficient process, but we wholeheartedly believe in its capability to match people with the chapters that they need to, that they would fit with best. And the reason that we believe in that so strongly is something called a mutual selection process. The way that this works is that as you begin your fall formal recruitment process, you will get an opportunity to learn about all 30 chapters. This will likely be through a set of videos that each chapter will produce and will be made available to all of our participants. They'll have the opportunity to watch those, learn about the recruitment, learn about each chapter, and then make preferences of their top 12 chapters based on that information that they were given. It's very uncommon that an individual is interested in even 10 chapters. So 12 chapters is usually a pretty reasonable level to get down to that first time around. From there, you will start engaging with those chapters more directly. You'll start interacting with them with a larger amount of members, a more diverse group of members. And then at the end of that second set of communications, you will once again go and make preferences. And this time you will pick your top 8 chapters from those interactions. And chapters at the same time will be picking the P&Ms that they like the most, who they would like to invite back. That's where the mutual term comes from. From there, there's another round of recruitment. You'll narrow it down to 3 chapters. And then there's one final round where you will be able to rank those last 3 chapters. And you will be assigned a bid that was extended to you by your highest ranked chapter. So if your first ranked chapter does not choose to extend you a bid, but your second ranked chapter does, you will be given the second ranked chapter's bid. This is kind of an assignment, like, hey, here's the bid that we're assigning you, because this is how the process has determined that this is the best fit for you. There is some flexibility if you decide you don't like the process or you don't like where you were assigned. There is some flexibility there, but the key goal of that formal recruitment process is to get you through quickly and effectively, and really get you engaged in that community as quickly as we can. Registration for that is actually open right now. You can go to the link that's scrolling on the bottom of the screen right now. Iowa State ifc.mycampusdirector2.com, and then put a /landing on there as well. That'll take you there too. That can also be found on our website as well, sfe.dso.iastate.edu. Yes, that's the website. So yes, that's our fall formal recruitment process. Gunnar is going to talk about our other formal event though that I didn't mention.
Yeah, so the second formal event we host is in the spring. This is called IFC Experience Weekend. So it's a semi-formal event, and it usually occurs around the end of March. And what this looks like is it usually spans a Friday through a Saturday on a weekend in March. And it gives the same opportunities that fall formal does, but it's not as extensive. So this is a great opportunity for incoming freshmen to go and get a kickstart and an early start on informal recruitment and like set a foundation for their recruitment process and or find the house they want to join. In addition to that, also this is an opportunity for people that didn't make up their mind and or didn't go through the process initially, whether it was informal or through fall formal recruitment, and they wanted to go and set a little bit of a foundation for themselves, whether it was socially, academically, and just get their feet under them in regards to just college life in general. And this is a great opportunity for current students and or incoming freshmen to go and find a fraternity that is best fit for them. So what this will look like is usually on a Friday night, there will be a large tabling event where P&Ms will be able to go and talk with every single fraternity. They'll go and preference their top 10. It's just college life in general. This is a great opportunity And then from there, they'll go and do house tours, and or just go and be able to meet more of the brothers that compose that chapter all that next Saturday. And it'll end with a reconnect session. And from there, they'll be able to go and get further contact information for those fraternity recruitment chairs, and or they'll be able to go and receive bids from certain chapters if they feel comfortable enough at that time.
So that is the main bulk of our kind of structured content that we want to cover. Us being the recruitment chairs, recruitment is kind of our main goal, but we do like to talk a little bit about our experience as members as well, just to kind of promote the community overall. Before we do that, I'm just going to quickly run through some of the ways you can get in contact with us. We are going to be taking questions. For anyone that may have any questions, feel free to start dropping those in the comments now, and we'll be happy to answer them. But if you have questions afterwards or you're watching this later, you can reach out to us at ifcrecruitment@iastate.edu. That's our email. We both look at it. We'd be happy to answer your question there. You can call our office at 515-294-1023. You can follow us on Facebook, Iowa State Interfraternity Council. You can also follow us on Instagram at Iowa State IFC. That's all scrolling at the bottom of the screen right now. And then you can also check out our website, which I said earlier is sfe.dso.iastate.edu. So feel free to check us out on all of those platforms for asking questions and getting more information that you may need if you're interested in joining our community. So the question that we've kind of answered the past few weeks, which I think is a really good one, is just talking about each of our individual recruitment processes, because neither of us really had the stereotypical route to recruitment. So we're going to talk a little bit about that and discuss some of the alternative methods that you could use if you choose to join our community. Gunnar, you want to go first or should I go first?
I can lead us off.
Okay, cool.
So like I had previously mentioned, I was at Colorado State University through my sophomore year. So I've only been in Iowa State 2 years. And I actually joined an organization out at Colorado State and was able to transfer to the local chapter at Iowa State. So it was really, really beneficial for me, both academically and socially. But for my actual process, so my dad was in a fraternity actually at Iowa State, and he had always talked about how great of friends how he had made lifelong friends and made all these amazing memories because of his involvement within a fraternity. And I knew like from the start that I wanted to join a fraternity because of that. And I remember so basically I went to the beginning of an informal process that IFC was hosting at Colorado State. It was all 30 chapters and they were all tabling. I remember I was super confident, super excited. And I turned the corner and looked in the room and there were 30 tables, about somewhere between 20 and 30 tables with 5 chapter members per table. And I remember my stomach just dropped. I went from being this confident 18-year-old to just being horrified. And I ended up going and finally convincing myself. I was like, you know what? I'm here. You might as well. What could go wrong? And so thankfully I went in, was able to talk to a lot of the chapters. And from there I was able to go through a lot of their individual recruitment process and go to a bunch of their recruitment events. And I was able to go and receive a good chunk of bids. And the way the bidding process was a little bit different at Colorado State. So basically what that looked like is once you received a bid, you had a 3-day window to go and either accept or deny the bid. So out of all the bids I received, there were 3 chapters that I had pretty high interest in. I ended up going in, dwindling it down to 2 pretty quickly. And thankfully, both of those chapters extended bids to me within the same hour. So I had basically the same start time for those 3-day decision periods. And I ended up going and getting to the last hour of my 3-day period. And I still couldn't decide. The 2 chapters that I was stuck between were so different. I enjoyed both of them, and there were a lot of strengths and weaknesses to both. But they were just so on such polar ends. I had such a hard time going and trying to figure out which one to join. And by the last hour of the 3-day period, I called my dad, was like, what do I do? His first response was like, listen, you don't have to sign. You don't have to join a fraternity right now. This is a great opportunity for you to go and get to know more guys and then go and go through the recruitment process again in another semester. I said, no, I want to join. I said, all right, well, that option's off the table. And he went and he gave me some of the best advice that I got for going through recruitment. And he's like, listen, think about the members that compose that fraternity and think about who you'd want around your family at your wedding. And from there, instantly, that one of those two fraternities clicked, and I made my decision right there and then. So yeah, that was my process. So another big thing that I had mentioned that I started off with was sort of my transition between Colorado State and Iowa State. So I'm beyond thankful that I had joined a fraternity at Colorado State, because I was able to go and not worry about housing, not worry about sort of a social network. Seeing as my dad had gone to Iowa State, I had a few friends and I had a couple cousins that currently go to Iowa State. But since I was in a fraternity, I was able to immediately know where I was going to be living, immediately have a social foundation and a network. And what usually when a student transfers, on average, their GPA drops by 0.2. I remember my advisor, she's wonderful, but she looked me dead in the eyes. She's like, your GPA is probably going to drop by 0.2 while we were setting academic goals. And I was like, excuse me? She's like, yeah, that's probably going to happen. I said, no, it's not. And thankfully, because of she's a wonderful advisor. So thankfully, because I had such a great advisor, I ended up going and having a huge network and academic foundation for my fraternity. I was able to go and take up 2 executive positions on campus in external clubs, 1 executive position within my fraternity, and then also bump my GPA by 0.3. So I think a lot of people go and immediately think of the stereotype of a fraternity, but I think there's a lot more to gain than what just the Hollywood portrayal is. So
absolutely. That transitions actually well into my recruitment experience. So I come from a family of individuals who were never involved in sorority and fraternity life. My whole family and extended family have gone to colleges around Iowa or around the Midwest, but none of them were ever involved in any way. So I never had a connection to it. The only connection I ever had was actually one of my good friends, who his dad was in a chapter at Iowa State. I love his dad. He's great. His dad was in a chapter. That friend was a year older than me. He came to Iowa State, joined that same chapter. And then right about when I was starting to prep to come to college, towards the end of my senior year, he texted me. He was like, hey, I know you're not really connected with this at all, but just come up and check it out. Come take a look. So at the time, the university had an event called Greek Visit Day. That has since been changed and split up by council. So that's now our IFC Experience Weekend event is the equivalent. But that event kind of existed to give you a community experience. So I came in, I really loved the community atmosphere. I really loved the just general vibe of everything that was going on. There's people everywhere. They're on their front lawns. They're playing Frisbee, the things like that. That was really an amazing experience for me, kind of to experience the community environment. And that was where I was like, oh, maybe this is something I want to get involved with. However, I visited the chapter that he was in. I stayed overnight. I only talked to him and no one else for the entire time. So it was not a very successful recruitment experience for me. And that kind of left me defeated because I didn't really feel like I was going to be capable of going through the process effectively, essentially. And so I was like, okay, let's take a year, kind of get my feet under me in college, because I was super, super, super introverted when I was in high school. I was like, let's get my feet under me. And I did that. I became involved in several different areas of the university, particularly in being a cyclone aide, who are the ones responsible for running the orientations when they are in person. Unfortunately for them, that is not what they're getting to experience. But through that experience, I got to meet a ton of people who were involved in the community, and they're like, hey, you should give it another try. These are some chapters we think that you would fit in really well with. So I really engaged with those chapters, started doing some recruitment events throughout that summer. During the orientations, on the weekends, I would go to the recruitment events, and ended up joining the chapter that I'm in as a sophomore. So that's not necessarily normal, but it's not uncommon either, to get people that join as sophomores or even juniors. We had one guy in my chapter that joined as a senior. It's an option. It's something you can do. So wherever you are, whatever your experience is, whatever your background is, I would really encourage that you look at the community, but also get yourself into a good space to be prepared to go through that experience. You certainly don't have to be extroverted. I mentioned I was introverted and have become more extroverted, although my Myers-Briggs still says that I'm introverted. So I don't know. But you don't have to be an extrovert to be successful in the sorority fraternity community in any way. You just have to be willing to engage with that experience. For me, that required me coming out of my shell a little more. For other people, that may not be true. You may be able to find the right vibe for you without really having to stretch yourself too far. And that's kind of the great thing about having 30 different chapters on campus. You will be able to find an atmosphere that fits you. We encourage you to step outside your comfort zone. Being able to put yourself out like this is part of that. But hopefully you'll be able to find a chapter that doesn't push you so far out that you don't enjoy your experience. So that's my 2 cents.
Going off of that as well is that I think the common misconception about joining a fraternity is that it's going to be a lot of additional work, and it's going to be something additional and something that'll slow you down, whether it's academics or other involvements. But a lot of the times that's actually the opposite of what happens. A lot of the times you end up going and having more academic resources. You have guys that have already experienced their classes, so you have a lot more wisdom to tap into, and you have a lot more support overall.
One of our questions that our lovely friend McKinley is giving us as well to answer. What are you most looking forward to when you graduate, or in your alumni experience? That's a good question. I think I have an answer.
Oh,
do you have an answer?
You want to start or should I start?
I can start.
Okay.
You started the last one. So for me, it's going to be, for me, the biggest thing that I think I'm going to really benefit from in my future is those connections with people out in the real world. Alumni that my chapter has. My chapter is fairly small internationally, but we do still have a good network of alumni who are really willing to connect with other members and really get them into positions, good positions out in industries and things like that. Additionally, just the network of people. I have gained just as much friendship outside of my chapter as I have within. Some of my closest friends in the community are not in my chapter. They're not even in a fraternity, they're in a sorority. But they're some of my closest friends. And some of my friends aren't in the community at all. But those friends, I meet 2 friends in one chapter, and then all of a sudden I have a connection to everyone in that chapter. So it's really easy to build those networks really big throughout the community. Not only networking connections, but just friends that you're going to see for the rest of your life. You're going to have, no matter where you are, one of those people is going to be somewhere nearby. When you have a whole chapter of 100 people plus another whole chapter that you're friends with, that's another 100 people. Wherever I end up, I know that I'm going to have someone there that that I will know and that I can interact with, you know. So that's the thing that I'm most thankful for personally.
Yeah, so that's also the thing I'm most thankful for. So I'm currently going and filling requirements for veterinary school and also potentially medical school. Gonna have to make a decision someday. But it's really cool right now because I'm trying to figure out where I can go and properly get residency so I can get in-state tuition, and then also go and try and figure out my living situation. And I have a huge national network that I can tap into. We have a Facebook page that I can go and put a post up and say, "Hey guys, like my name's Gunnar Maddock. This is my background. These are my goals and aspirations. This is where I'm living, and like this is the amount of money I have to spend." And or if someone just already knows of people living there, it's just an amazing network to be able to tap into, and I'll have those opportunities lined up. Even the people I've met directly, as of right now, I know people that are in Illinois, Iowa, Colorado, the state of Washington, Minnesota. The list goes on that I could potentially live with and or be able to lean into for support, and that's huge. One thing I also look forward to personally about being an alumni is I really look forward to giving back and being able to help mold younger members and really go and be able to assist them, whether it's professionally and or just academically with scholarships. So I really enjoy, I'm really excited for that.
Advice to first-year students interested in joining a fraternity this fall. I started last time. You get to start this time.
Just keep trading off. I appreciate it. Yeah. The advice, what I've come to find, especially when I was a recruitment chair for an individual chapter, was that recruitment chairs will always transparently show what their priorities are. Whether they mean to or not, they will. If you actively listen, you ask good questions, and you even take notes, you'll go and start seeing patterns of what they highlight and what they prioritize. And so I think a really big part of the recruitment process is being confident and being courageous and being able to go and ask those questions and or just really actively listen to other people's questions. And probably the best way to go through the recruitment process is know where your priorities are, what you want to gain out of it, and then be that active listener or that active questioner and go and be able to align that chapter that has the best priorities in line with what you want to gain out of joining fraternity. Those are my 2 cents.
That's good advice. I kind of gave some advice earlier that were just about general experience. The one thing that I will add on to that though is make sure that you, when you're going through this recruitment process, A, be open-minded, and B, explore all of your options. Like I said, there's 30 chapters on campus. There's one that is probably going to fit you really, really well. There may be multiple that are going to fit you really well. One of my regrets from my recruitment process is that I was kind of narrowed in on like these 3 chapters that my friends who I trust very much told me like, hey, these 3 chapters we think are going to fit you really well. And I listened to them and I joined one of those 3 chapters. But I know that there is at least one other chapter that was not in that group that I definitely would have meshed well with as well. But I never gave a look at because I was so narrowed in on those 3 chapters. So I really encourage you to look at everything, look at all of your options, take a chance with some chapters because, you know, the recruitment chairs will reach out to you. And you may be like, oh, I'm not interested in this chapter. Respond to them, see what they have to say, you know, because they may have something that they have to pitch to you that's really going to appeal to you. So I encourage you to just give everyone a chance, really engage with anyone you can. So closing thoughts, to describe your fraternity experience in one word.
I've got my word.
Go ahead. I don't know mine.
I would say rewarding.
Solid. I would say growth. I think I've grown so much in my social capability from joining the community, joining my chapter, joining the community as a whole. So, okay. I believe that is all we have for today. Again, we encourage you to reach out to us on social media, through our email, anything like that. If you have any other questions about joining our recruitment processes, feel free to reach out to us. We will be happy to help you through those processes. But with that, I think that's going to do it for us. And I hope that everyone stays safe and has a great rest of your afternoon, your weekend, anything in between. So
awesome.
Bye, y'all.